This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Nelson versus Levin. Mr. Nelson, it's my understanding you're suing your ex-wife, Miss Levin, for injuries you sustained while you were on her property. You're asking this court to award you $45,000 for your past medicals, $25,000 for scarring and disfigurement, $90,000 for pain and suffering, for a total award of $160,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Levin, you believe that Mr. Nelson caused his own injuries and you don't owe him a thing, true?
Absolutely. Yes,
well, let's
Your
get
Honor.
into the legal sauce. How did you end up at your ex-wife's home?
Well, Sarah and I were married 15 years. She used to be the love of my life. The divorce was finalized 4 months ago. In the divorce, she got our house, I got to pay alimony, and she gets half of my 401k. And then, just to be vindictive, I had to go over there and cut down the trees that I planted in our backyard for her for our 10-year anniversary.
As part of your divorce settlement?
As the divorce decree.
Why would you want him to cut trees down at your house?
I've asked him for years to cut these trees down. They block a bunch of the light that comes into my kitchen, other parts of the home. He tries to paint me as some bad person, but all of these things that he's saying that he gave me in the divorce.
Well, we ain't gonna work out y'all's divorce because some other judge decided that one.
I agree.
Yeah.
However, how do you go from cutting trees down to in that bandage?
So, like I said, Your Honor, in the divorce decree, I had 60 days to cut 23 trees down in our former backyard, now her backyard. So,
The answer is he doesn't know what he was doing.
yeah, well, I didn't know what I was doing. No, I'm sorry you didn't marry a tree expert, Sarah. But I go over there, I had a small window of time with a chainsaw. As soon as I get in there, she starts complaining. She gets on me. She's got a problem with this. She's got a problem with that. I actually, at one point, I had to go outside and vent and send a message to my friends. I just had to get out of that house.
Well, you submitted a video to this court.
Yes, I did.
Is this the message that you sent?
That is the message because my friends know very well.
You don't look really
Because
happy.
he's
does to me.
emotionally unstable, and he has to get his story out first. That's
How do you
just the
think
way
I got
he's
that
always
way,
been.
Sarah?
Let's see the video.
So I'm over here at Sarah's. Got to cut all these trees down. Chainsaw's out of gas. I'm tired. She's giving me dirty looks. I can't stand this woman.
Ms. Levin, were you interfering with this? Were you distracting him?
Oh, no,
Absolutely
no.
not. He came into the house, and I was surprised that it was him by himself. I didn't see any safety equipment. I didn't see that he had hired anybody.
So, Mr. Nelson, how did this happen?
Well, 15 years ago, I married Sarah.
Well, you thought it was a good idea then, so don't make it such a bad idea today.
He also thought
Believe me,
showing
Your
up-
Honor, you should have met her then. She was a whole different person. I don't even recognize this.
Well, we got who we got today, and she certainly got who she got. How'd this happen?
Oh, yeah, she did.
Yeah.
How'd this happen?
So I go over there. I get the chainsaw by myself. I didn't, no, I'm not a tree expert, but I had a plan. So in our former backyard, now her backyard, all the trees are in a line. There's this little platform looks like a little deck. I'm on the platform, grab the chainsaw, yank.
We all know how it sounds.
Chainsaw's going,
Thank you.
chainsaw's going. Oh, you know how it sounds. I thought you were busy. So I walk over there. I take 2 steps. There's a loose board. It's not even nailed down. I trip over the board. I fly through the railing, land 8 feet on the ground, hurt my elbow, broke my elbow, cracked 2 ribs. I can barely breathe. Chainsaw goes flying through the air. It was like a freaking horror movie. Chops out 3 of my fingers. Yes, and you know what she was doing the whole time? You know what she was doing? She was sitting at the kitchen table, having a couple of beers, talking on the phone while I'm out there nearly chopping my entire hand off. And guess who had to call 911 and
So
pick
you
up his own
lopped off-
fingers? Me!
Sounds difficult.
So you lopped off 3 of your fingers?
Yes.
So you fall off this platform, this chainsaw comes down and cuts off 3 of your fingers?
Yes.
And that's what your hand looked like?
Yes. It's the most excruciating
You must
thing
have
I've
been
ever been through
freaking
in
out
my
with
whole
this.
life.
So you own the property, he's doing something you wanted.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And he lops off 3 of his fingers and this isn't your fault?
His own
Because
negligence his own.
I asked her a question, so I can't listen to you. I want to hear from you because you are obviously into this. You got skin and fingers in the game. I understand that. Why isn't this your fault?
Your Honor, his own negligence and lack of preparedness, that's what made all of this happen. This had nothing to do with me. This is all of his fault.
This is a man you used to love. You see this injury? Mm-hmm. This has got to tug at your heart some.
I can tell him what to go do with his hand.
I'm real tempted to get into this mess, but it ain't none of my business. Ms. Levin, how did you know something had gone wrong?
I didn't. It had nothing to do with me. I wasn't watching him. This is all in his head that I saw this happen, that I could have done anything to help it.
Well, how did you know he was hurt?
The window.
How did you know he was hurt?
When I heard the sirens and he was getting into the ambulance, I came outside.
And what did you do?
I obviously tried to do everything that I could. It had already happened. I didn't even know, honestly, that he was going to use the platform. He didn't bring a ladder. He didn't use any safety equipment. I didn't even know where in the yard he was.
Mr. Nelson, you've submitted to this court $45,000 in past medicals. You're asking this court to award you $25,000 for scarring and permanent disfigurement and $90,000 for pain and suffering. I want to understand your injuries. Make me understand.
Your Honor, after I fell off the platform, the first thing that happened was I broke my elbow. Then I cracked 2 of my ribs. And then, like I said, the chainsaw landed on me, chopped out 3 of my fingers.
You've had some very severe injuries. You're still wrestling with those, I see.
Yes, sir. I'm in pain every single day, and my quality of life has changed dramatically. I work with HVAC. I need both my hands. I barely have one. I'm on light duty. I can't even answer the phone anymore.
Your medical records indicate that they were able to reattach your fingers. Can you use that hand?
Not right now, not until the bandage comes off. I can't even look at it anymore.
So this is what your hand looked after they reattached your fingers?
Yes, sir.
What kind of movement do you have in those 2 fingers?
Not a whole lot. And then, like I said, it's covered with a bandage. I can't even do anything with it anyway.
Ms. Levin, you now own this property. You want your ex-husband to come over and cut these trees down.
Yes,
he goes up on your platform, on your property. It falls apart, and he lops his fingers off. Why is this not your fault?
Because it's his negligence that contributed to this. He was too cheap to hire anyone. He was too cheap to get any safety equipment. This had nothing to do with me. This is 100%
$7,000 for my guy.
Yeah.
I gave you a quote. You don't like my guy. You don't like my guy.
Talk to me. I asked the question.
Everybody.
I asked the questions. You may have done that in your marriage. You don't get to do that in my courtroom.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Levin, you said he was too cheap. What do you mean by that?
He didn't hire anyone to help him. He didn't get any safety equipment. He's a walking liability. If he would have done this in anyone else's backyard and hurt himself, he can't just go around suing people.
You could have hired a tree cutter, right? This is a simple job for a tree cutter.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, with all due respect, she's getting half my money.
You might be mad about the divorce, but you got to get in a line of people that's millions of folks long. That's what you agreed to. I'm talking. That's what you agreed to. That's what you're stuck with. But you cut your fingers off. You tell me why it's her fault.
Well, in the divorce decree, it says that I can do this job however I want to do this job.
No, it says that you're responsible.
You got to let him talk, Ms. Levin.
There's the decree.
It reads, final judgment of divorce. The defendant, that would be you, Mr. Nelson, shall be solely responsible for removal of 23 trees from backyard of plaintiff's residence within 60 calendar days of signature of this judgment.
Your Honor, if
Now, why not hire somebody to do it? You got 60 days to pick somebody.
Because, Your Honor.
Thank you. He wasn't responsible in doing any of this.
Responsible? Since she conned her way into getting our house.
Always my fault. He cheated
You
in the
always
marriage.
want to relitigate this divorce. I'm not doing that today.
He cheated the marriage.
No, he asked me a question.
We are going to have order in this court, and that's the second time I slammed this. The third time I turned into the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay?
Go get her.
No, I'll get you too.
Sorry.
Y'all talk to me. I'm not relitigating your divorce. I simply want to know, why did you not hire somebody to cut these trees down, a professional.
I really wish I could have, but since we've been divorced, my life just hasn't been the same. I live in a one-bedroom apartment. I'm behind on my car payment. I'm in debt. So I don't have the money to hire somebody. I don't have the money to hire the 18 grand person that she wanted. I barely had money to hire the 7 grand person that I wanted. And that's a buddy of mine who was cutting me a break. Sarah's got a problem with my guy. Sarah
So,
has
Ms.
a
Levin,
problem
you
with
wouldn't let his
everybody.
guy cut the trees down?
Your Honor, he had 60 days to try and find someone. He got a $7,000 quote from someone that I do not want on the property, who's not licensed or bonded. I mean, he's a glorified gardener. He's not qualified.
Well, what did you think was appropriate?
The only quote I got was $18,000, but at the same time, it's not my responsibility.
But that's a lot of money.
But it's his job. It's not my responsibility. It's not my problem.
Mr. Nelson, you believe it's her fault. What did Miss Levin do wrong that caused your injury?
It was her responsibility to maintain whatever's going on out there. Never had a problem with that platform. You see the boards, how old they are? She said she was going to get that fixed. She never told me there was a problem.
Ms. Levin,
I don't
that
know.
does look
Maybe
like
she
that's in bad
sabotaged
shape.
it.
Your Honor, not only did he live there when we had a hurricane and he knew that the boards were damaged, but he also knew that I put 3 of those slats back down without nailing it. He had full knowledge of it.
So you all had a hurricane.
Yes, while he still lived there. I don't need to tell you that there was a problem.
been gone
Maybe
2
I would
months.
have reminded you if you would have come and talked to me and communicated.
Now, you've submitted a video to this court. Let's take a peek at it on the plasma. This is the storm you were talking about, Ms. Levin?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you believe this is what damaged the platform?
Yes, it's been damaged since that day.
Well, where was Mr. Nelson living when this storm happened?
He was living there. This video was a year before our divorce.
So you all were still married when this happened?
Yes.
So you at least knew what the storm did to the platform, right?
But I've been out of the house for 2 months. She never fixed it. I don't know what she's doing with that house or who's coming in and out of my old house.
Miss Levin, on day 1 after the divorce, this property became yours and yours alone, with the responsibility to keep it in good repair. Why didn't you just fix the platform?
I've just been spending my money on other things.
You mean my money?
No.
And those other things we don't want to talk about.
I know what I meant. It's my money.
Wow. You know, it's always amazing to me that people who used to love each other become enemies.
I know.
And this case is about as personal injury gets. I've heard as much as I need to hear, and I'm ready to render my decision. Folks, part of this case sounded like the tail end of a divorce. And while entertaining, maybe even disturbing, it has nothing to do with this case. This case is about a landowner and someone who came on the landowner's property to do a service. That's a premises liability case. As the landowner, you are responsible, Ms. Levin. If you know about hazards, you're to address them in a reasonable way to reduce the risk of other people coming onto the property. You knew about these boards. Not fixing them, the law sees that as wrong. Mr. Nelson, you were hurt badly. Notice I'm not going to talk about whether you were injured or how badly it was. Following a divorce, to lop off your fingers, life's been kind of unfair to you. But you too have legal responsibilities. When you go onto a property that you lived on, you're charged under the law for being aware of the hazards on that property. This platform didn't become shaky and raggedy in that 2 months. The storm caused it to be raggedy. You knew about the storm. And the reason that's important is in a premises liability case, notice of the hazard is the most important thing. If you know more about the hazard as the landowner and you don't address it, he wins. If you know as much about the hazard as Ms. Levin knows, you lose. Here I find you live there. You know this platform. You knew the hazard and could have protected yourself. You are 50% responsible at least, and despite your terrible injuries, I must find against you, and in your ex-wife's favor, I find for the defendant. That is my verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Richard Harris has to say.
This was clearly a bitter divorce, and the defendant's body language spoke volumes. The case came down to an important fact. The boards on the tree platform were blown off in a prior storm while the plaintiff was still living in the marital home. While they were merely replaced and not nailed down, the plaintiff had knowledge, so his ex-wife did not have a duty to warn him about the danger.